did not take long for Johan Rojas to be one of the most controversial members of this Phillies team, with Rob Thomson recently benching him from the lineups for what seems to be a base running mistake. I want to break down why I have an issue with Rob Thomson in these actions, why Johan Rojas, I believe, is still exceeding expectations, even with a little bit of slippage in the field, and kind of sort through the outlook at the center field position. Now, to lay the groundwork directly here, I'm recording this on Friday after Thursday night, a 4-2 loss at the hands of the Washington Nationals, in which Johan Rojas is catching quite a bit of heat. And the obvious frustration with him is for stretching a double into a triple in the bottom of the ninth inning. So the Phillies, with having a chance to have it come back and go and get that win as they trailed heading into the inning, Johan Rojas rips one down the third base line and extends it from a double to a triple. Now, what I seem to be missing here is I don't understand why people are freaking out about Johan Rojas getting thrown out at third base when he did not get thrown out at third base. It is another thing to me to have this conversation if that cost them an out or ended the game in a bad setting. And I understand this was not the smartest base running move, but I do side with Johan Rojas in trying to make things happen. And once again, want to point out he succeeded, that he got to third base here. He was not gunned out on the play. He was successful in stretching out a double to the triple, and the Phillies needed that, to be honest. And how did that game end immediately after? Rafael Marchand flying out to center field on the first pitch he looked at. If you're Rojas there, you don't think it is fair to assess that it makes sense to try and make something happen when you don't have somebody that you believe in behind you? That the root of the issue here are certainly not Johan Rojas in my mind. Now, is there a theme to be had that Rojas maybe not the highest IQ baseball player? Is there a theme to be had that this Phillies team has had issues on the base path, making some poor decisions? All totally fair. But I do think Rojas is the exact wrong guy to be making an example out of this, and I do think Rob Thomson is making a mistake. And by the way, as I mentioned that, Cal Stevenson filled in for Rojas today, and looks to be equally a disaster in center field, even worse than Rojas, that he just cost Luzardo an out. Not only did he get a hit, got picked off first base, and then flubbed one up that cost Luzardo basically the win, certainly to get out of the inning, and ultimately chasing him from that game. But nonetheless, I do want to keep this topic on Rojas specifically, and do want to dive into what Rob Thomson said. So a couple quotes that I do want to point out here, and this immediately following the game, the Rob Thomson said he will talk to Johan Rojas about his base running decision in the ninth. Once again, a decision that was successful, that he did not get thrown out on. Now, to add to that, Topper met with the media again today, saying that Rojas would be out of the lineup today, and the exact terminology that is being thrown our direction is that Rojas is out of the lineup tonight and may not be in tomorrow as he deals with some general body soreness. It has nothing to do with the ninth inning base running last night, per Rob Thomson. And what do I say to that? Coaches lie, man. I think Rob Thomson is lying here. I think this is his way to keep it in-house, to make it that way, but I don't think it is coincidental that the night after this happens, that there is a message being sent. Now, to circle back to the overall message here, because I don't want to diminish that, this Phillies team has not played smart enough baseball. It is 100% spot on to assess that. But Johan Rojas is the guy that you want to make an example of this, not Bryce Harper, who I see get thrown out at second base on a seemingly weekly basis for trying to stretch the shortest single, basically blooper up the middle to get to second base on, that he does all the time. That all these guys that make base running mistakes, that Alec Boehm, that has certainly had plenty of those other situations there, and Johan Rojas is who we're making an example of here. That is my problem with the overall conversation. I agree with the overall message. I get it, that they do have to be smarter on the base path and as a baseball team in general. But a guy who, once again, was successful in stretching a double to a triple, the fastest guy on this team, when you could have potentially needed that extra base there, I'm not going to come down too hard on that guy in that specific circumstance. Now, for Rojas specifically, it's been an interesting trajectory here in Philadelphia, right? Like, he came to this team and the label immediately was, this dude is a special defender. This is a guy who could be an elite caliber defensive center fielder. He is a very talented defensive center fielder. He is not quite a very skilled center fielder just yet, and we are seeing that on full force. So there are some more growing pains in the field that I don't think too many of us were prepared for, and that has been put on full display. Now, on the other side of things here, he does seem like he's putting things together at the plate this year, which I do not think can be brushed over. And to dive into a couple of those stats for Rojas here, he has 1 home run on the year, 9 RBIs, a .348 on-base percentage, not bad there, 59 at-bats, he's had 18 hits, 4 stolen bases, 17 strikeouts, and to kind of compare it amongst this Phillies team here, I do think this is noteworthy here, that looking at his rankings on this Phillies roster, he is 5th on the team in OPS, he is 2nd on the team in batting average, trailing only Edmundo Sosa there, he is 5th, he has 5 walks walks on the season. He had 13 in 120 games last year. He's already recorded 2 sacrifice flies this year, had 0 in the past 2 seasons. And to add this a little farther, a .333 batting average with 12 hits. This in his last 11 games here. He's had 7 RBIs and 7 runs scored. Johan Rojas is not likely going to make his money as a power hitter ever, but he's got more home runs than Alec Bohm on the season. We got to acknowledge that one at the forefront. All 6'5" of Alec Bohm still can't lift the ball into center field, but if Johan Rojas is taking these strides, I do appreciate and respect that. Now, for Rojas specifically, it's been strange as we approach this year, and I think this was a frustration of all of us, for just another runaround of having the Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas platoon. 2 guys that I think neither one of them are quite satisfactory on a World Series championship team from the center field perspective. And I will point out, as our very own Luke Arcani has been all on top, all over tracking here, it does feel that there is a legitimate push for Otto Kemp to get an opportunity down to the minors. He's still incredibly young and working his way up the ranks at a really high rate, but it is not coincidental that they are playing him in left field, getting a little bit of tries at guys like Max Kepler in center. Cal Stevenson, as I mentioned, got the opportunity, and I do think that will be a short-lived one today after the events that did transpire in this Phillies game. But to bring it back to Rojas and Marsh here, Rojas was basically handed this job by default here. That Brandon Marsh hitting .095 at the plate at the major league level is just not going to get the job done. The strikeouts insanely through the roof, as has sort of been the theme during his entire tenure in Philadelphia, and he was sent down to the minors. Now, we did have a little bit of update in regards to Marsh here. Shout out to Matt Gelb of The Athletic here, who tweets out, Brandon Marsh, hamstring, will play again tonight for AAA Lehigh Valley. Fully expecting him to be active Saturday and in center field for the Phillies. So to me, once again, this was noteworthy here, as Matt Gelb is a guy who is as in the know as you will find from the Phillies' perspective here. I understand that they're not giving up on Brandon Marsh completely. To me, that this sort of injuryless stint was a bit of a just go clear your head, get back to yourself, and you got to turn it around. They've been publicly very complimentary of Brandon Marsh. The organization has been pretty outward in their expressions of belief in that long-haired guy, whatever you want to call Brandon Marsh in this particular spot. I think my frustrations with Marsh specifically, it's always going to be the strikeout rate, and I don't see that changing. And while that's a flaw that a lot of players have, it becomes more of a standout issue on this Phillies roster when you are in the same lineup of guys like Nick Castellanos, who has those similar issues. And you have to live with Castellanos because there is the top end tier of when that guy gets on an offensive, just absolute tear, he can carry a team. That is not the case with Brandon Marsh. That you have this same downside without the same level of upside that a guy like Castellanos provides. Now, for the center field position from here, they could potentially take a big swing on a trade target here, but I do think this is sort of a situation where this is the bed that they've made and they have to sleep on it. I'm not confident enough to say that Johan Rojas can't be an everyday center fielder. I think there is a chance that he can grow into that player. He is still just 24 years old, and there is something untapped there that I want to keep discovering. Let that guy play through his mistakes. Let him figure things out. And again, the bat has been borderline very good this year. Now, when I compare these same kind of metrics that I did pull up earlier in his ranks on the Phillies team, to be fully clear here, this is more of an indictment on the rest of the Phillies roster than just a compliment on Johan Rojas. I'm glad that he's delivering on these measurables, producing at this level here, but if you're in that same locker room, if you're Bryson Stott, or you're Alec Bohm, or you're Nick Castellanos, or Trey Turner here, and you're looking at stats like this and saying, Johan Rojas is producing more than me, that should be a real look in the mirror moment of I need to get myself together. Again, shout out to Johan that he is taking a little bit of those strides there. I do hope this isn't something that breaks his confidence with Rob Thomson sending him down for a minute, or maybe I am thinking too deep into it. Then maybe there is some legitimate general body soreness that requires him to be out of the lineup for 2 games. I do find that kind of hard to believe that these aren't connected whatsoever. I do think he's the wrong guy to make an example of in this specific circumstance. It is the right message, wrong messenger, or wrong way to apply it in this current state. And again, I don't want the point to get lost that he was successful in stretching that out from a double to triple. He was not gunned down at third base. Was it a risk? Yes, but it was one that he took that I understand why he took it, and he was successful in accomplishing it. So you guys can feel free to yell at me in the comments if you disagree, as I've seen plenty of this, of the immediate reaction when that play happened, and by the way, went to review the whole big deal to make sure that he got in there, but he did. He was clearly safe. Now, I get it was close, but he was clearly safe here. So I don't love this decision by Rob Thompson. I think this should be a guy that we're building up his confidence, feeding him a little bit more, and that isn't how the events are transpiring in front of us. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do want to remind you guys, as always, make sure you are smashing that subscribe button. That at this point in time, 30% of you guys watching this video, this is all that have subscribed to us here on Phillies Digest thus far. So let's keep this Phillies Digest family growing. Make sure you hit that button, drop a like below, drop your comments, and I'll be back to talk with you next time. Peace.